All right. So again, I'm Reverend Jerry Federley, and Alex Richardson, normally our practitioner, shows up on Sunday, is taking a well-deserved day off, and I am her substitute. But I know how to do this. I have been trained. Anyway, so let me take you into prayer. Just go within for a moment. On that in breath, just breathe in and connect to the divine. That space where you remember you are never alone. You never walk alone. You are always one with this divine creator, the source of all that there is. And I give great thanks for that. I know that there is this perfect day in front of us as we celebrate Father's Day, as we remember Juneteenth from yesterday, if we get ready for this beautiful, beautiful Sunday, we celebrate each other, we celebrate the divine. And we are so grateful that the divine has shown up in Reverend Carolyn Douglas, our guest speaker today, for I know that she is already gifting us this inspiring message on the evolution of soul story. So we just let it be. We relax in the goodness and in the joy and in the love, and we let it be. And so it is. So now what I'd like to do is invite you all into a little meditation, and I'm going to play a little meditation music that I have downloaded if I find it. How about that? This happened to me my last time, that my meditation music has disappeared. So we are not going to do that after all. So I'm just going to lead you in a 3-minute meditation. I know how to do that. I've been trained on that too. So just take a moment. What I'm going to invite you to do is practice your breath to take you into that space. On the in breath, on a count of 6. And then on the out breath, 8. And then breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out breath, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now just breathe in, relaxing, going into the silence, connecting that all that there is God. And I will let you know when your 3 minutes are up and you re-enter the consciousness of the room. And now, as we bring a conclusion to our meditation, our time, remember these words from Carl Jung: who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. The soul's call is this deeply intimate, challenging work that we do. And for that, we give great thanks. And so it is. And now I'm going to play another little band music. I'm believing that I still can do that even though I lost my other one. So let me take us there.
It's already here. Lift your spirits and reach your God. It's already here. It's already here. Say the word and then just believe. It's already here. It starts with a prayer. It's waiting for you inside. It's not as hard as it seems to be, 'cause it's already here. It's already here. Anything that you want, you can get. It's already here. It starts with a prayer. It's waiting for you inside. It's not as hard as it seems to be, 'cause it's already here. It's already here. Anything that you want, you can get. It's already here.
So now it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend Carolyn Douglas. She has been here before, and in my delight, because people have raved about her, how much they appreciate her messages, that I wanted to invite her back again. And today her talk is Evolution, a Soul Story. Reverend Carolyn Douglas is an ordained minister with Centers for Spiritual Living. She's also the spiritual director at the Peninsula Center for Spiritual Living. I think one of the other common things I like about her is she is a professional with HeartMath. I have taken the training, but she is certified. That makes her 2 steps above. But I know the awesome work of HeartMath. And so I know that Reverend Carolyn will just bring you into that awesome space of the connection of the divine. So let's welcome Reverend Carolyn.
Thank you so much. I'm clapping for myself because this is a wonderful subject to talk about. I'm happy to be back here with you here in Vallejo. I'm moving myself out of Richmond into Vallejo right now. See, this is an example of the soul forever expanding. We can go wherever we want to go by way of technology. My title today is Evolution, a Soul Story. And we have started this month's theme, which is the soul's call, looking at a couple of other lessons. First of all, we looked at pushed by pain, and then we looked at leaning into discomfort. What I want you to know is that the common denominator there is pain. So what is pain? What does it look like? What kind of pain are we really talking about? And I have learned and personally experienced that pain can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be mental. The pain I really went through was much more of a mental pain. It was the worst pain that I've ever had in my life. So when I was being pushed by that pain, it was actually the combination of the work of spirit and soul, allowing soul to do what it had been directed to do, to bring me into a greater awareness of the divine presence of spirit in my life, and to know that God is all that there is. You see, I was experiencing the passing, the death of my husband at a very young age. And I spent 2 years, 24 months, maybe a few little days added to that, personally in the grave with this person who had moved on in life. Because I thought the sun rose and set in my husband. And I did not want to betray the love and care and all of that for him and give it to someone else. But I want to bring into your thinking from the book of Job, the story of Job, a person who lived a very good, prosperous life, a person that loved God, a person that did everything right, had a wonderful life with his wife, with his children, good friends, prosperous in terms of having livestock and land, being a good person, giving not only to his neighbors, but giving and being kind to the strangers in the land. But there was something else that he forgot. And what he was not being conscious of is that God was the one that made all of this possible, that God is everything. So what we want to talk about today is evolution, and evolution's place in the awakening of our soul to the recognition of our unity with God, our unity with the whole of life. And to do that, we have to begin to look at what are the qualities, what are the definitions that we have of both evolution and soul. Once again, evolution is the unfolding. I believe it's evolution's purpose to bring us once again into a greater awareness of spirit. But in another way of saying that, let's just say that during evolution, during the work of the soul, its job is to help us to be the person we have been called here to be. And what we find when evolution is happening within ourselves, we begin to let go of mimicking other people, and we decide that we just want to be ourselves. Evolution and the work of the soul helps with that. So what I understand from our teachings is that it's just a logical and necessary outcome of the divine intelligence and of spirit for us to be at one with spirit and to allow within our own selves that goodness that aligns us with the divine to come forward. I want to share with you a story that I found from, I would say, the Far East. It's out of the Indian spiritual faith traditions. And before I share the story with you, I want to place into your awareness for application and consideration as I tell the story, two of my favorite universal principles. We believe the universal spirit operates through a universal mind, and that we're surrounded by a creative medium that receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. Secondly, we believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. I use the interpretation, the writing, and the language of these two principles from what I learned, not the newer expression of what that looks like, because that resonates within my heart. And it tells me of my nature, because in the triune nature of spirit, soul, and body, we know right here, right now, that the soul is that creative medium through which the spirit operates. So whatever is happening in your life now is a reflections of the thoughts that you have in your inner life, and it shows up on your outer life. Let's see if that's demonstrated in this soul, in this story. The title of the story is Pearls of the First Water. Now, please know that every story begins with you. It's going to be pretty easy to put yourself in this story, just as I can feel myself in the story. A disciple of a very wise old sage who is now deceased went in search of his old teacher's children. And he was in particular need to find the daughter because he wanted to see how her life had turned out. You see, he was present at her birth as well as at her brother's birth. They were twins. They were born basically at the same time. And at their birth, there were pronouncements of what their life would be like. And of course, the sage, or should I say this disciple, was really interested to see, since they had grown up now, if their lives had actually manifested based on those pronouncements of what their life would be like. So he was interested to see. He had already had a conversation with the son, and he shared with the son some things that he could do to make his life better. So now here he is with the daughter, and he is in the process of helping her to have an understanding of life and how she could make life better. You see, when the disciple found her, he found that she was living in a state of poverty, and her work was the work of a prostitute. She did not like her life. She was full of misery. She was lonely. She did not know her worthiness. She could not understand why she was living a life of poverty when she had such a good life from her father and her mother, who were well respected in their community, that they lived in an area where they could enjoy going out to the river and do meditations at the river and have wonderful experiences, not only spiritual experiences, but wonderful experiences with the neighbors. But what she was experiencing in her life was that she was not respected by the people in the town where she lived, and that she mostly had business during the night. She lamented and cried when the disciple asked her about her life and if there was something that could be done. Well, the more she cried, he just felt like he needed to do something to support her in some kind of way. So he asked her if she was open to receive some advice from him. Instead of telling her what to do, he asked if she was open to receive some advice. And she said, yes, anything that would make my life better, I want to hear it. I want to do something about it. I want to not be in this life, this miserable life that I'm living. So he said, well, I understand what your work is, and I understand where you are in your thinking, and I understand how that is showing up in your life. So here's the advice that I want you to follow. This evening, I want you to keep your door closed tonight. No matter who appears, no matter how many people come knocking upon your door, tell them that you will only open to the one who brings you a bag of pearls of the first water. Now do this for just one night, and I'll return and visit with you in the morning. Now, she had this look of incredulity on her face, like, are you kidding me? I'm already poor. I have no money. This is the only way that I can get what I need for sustenance. But he assured her, if she follows this advice, that perhaps things could change for her. Well, let's shift the story here. And let's see all that's going on. She is that soul. She is that pain. She is all of those things that we have been talking about in terms of the soul pushing her with pain, the soul pulling her into a new way of thinking, the soul moving her to a place where she may be open to being willing to change, to experience a transformation in her life. So back to the story. She sat there and she muddled and wrestled in her mind, giving herself all kinds of reasons, arguing why she should not take this advice. But the thing is, she reasoned that she could not take the advice and still not have anything. She could take the advice and she still might not have anything. She didn't have anything to lose. So she decided, well, okay, I think I'll take this advice. So she confirmed with him exactly what the instructions were. He left, reminding her that he would return in the morning to see how things went with this new plan that she was to employ. As it got darker, her customers came calling as usual. And true to her word, as they knocked on the door, wanting to come in for her services, she said, you can come in, but only if you have a bag of pearls for me that are of the first water. Well, now, these folks were not of the mind that she was worth a bag of pearls of the first water. So they kind of huffed, well, and walked away. Did not want to stay, did not want to pay the price. And every time someone came and knocked on the door, she told them that her fee was a bag of pearls of the first water. This went on, and the night started dragging on. She started feeling lonely. She started feeling desperate. She was despondent. All kinds of fears started rising up with her. All of the fears that she had even when she was a child. Things that should not be relevant to her now. But all of that stuff started rising up in her. And yet, she was still trying her very best to follow the advice of the disciple. Well, finally, there came a knock on the door when it was just about the hour when, and just before the night was going to go away and give space to the dawning of the new day. And she told that caller that her fee was a bag of pearls of the first waters. And he said, all right. She opened the door and there stood this nice young man who said, oh, I've been out fishing and this is what I caught. I have plenty. He gave her what she asked for. She invited him to come in and they did their business. Wow, how in the world that happened? It took a while for her to get to the divine yes within her to allow herself to shift her thinking. Now let's go a little bit further into this. The disciple came back to see her that morning, and he noticed that something was different. He noticed there was a change in her. Her countenance was a little bit different, and she was more open and receptive to him being there and was freer of spirit. So he asked her, tell me, how did it go for you last night? Let's start at the beginning. What was it like when your customers came and you did not let them in? And she explained all of those horrible, terrible feelings that she was feeling in her soul, that she was in such agony, so much pain, so much misery, that she kept feeling like it was time for her to give up, that she didn't know if she could keep going forward, that she was ready to give up at every moment. And then she remembered the fears that she had when she was a child, and how her parents would carry her to sit by the river and they would meditate together. And when they were in meditation to the goddess Saraswati. Now, Saraswati was the goddess, an ancient goddess that has been attributed with being the source of learning, speech, and wisdom. So they set her there and they meditated to Saraswati, and she found relief. And she employed that same technique when she found herself in that real panicky moment that she was just going to fall off the face of the earth. She allowed herself to be surrendered into that which was. Because what she was facing at the moment when this horrible pain was going through her was the truth, the reality of who and what she was at that moment. Now let's look at it from the soul perspective. The soul is saying, hey, here's some stuff I need you to see. Here's some things that you need to change in your life. Here is something you need to work with, because I know from my agent, the divine intelligence of life, from my cohort spirit, that you're perfect, whole, complete, you're entire, that you're worthy of respect, you're worthy of the good of life. And why are you living in this poverty state? That just doesn't make sense. So she was reminded in this place of meditation of what she already was, and for some reason had seemed to have forgotten. So she decided through that process of meditation and remembering her divine nature to allow that to guide her into holding on until the next day, to do exactly as she was instructed. And you know what? It actually panned out for her. It actually did well. And I want to say to you that when we find ourselves in those kinds of pains, the challenges of life, the misfortunes of life, that we can turn within, we can turn to the spirit of life within and allow ourselves to become much more anchored in the truth of our being. Many of us during this time of our life will say, when we're pushed between a rock and a hard place, I love to roll out my scripture, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. I can go to my spiritual and intuitive nature, and I can receive from the fount of this divine good and allow it to maintain and to sustain me. And I can always turn to the Psalms And I can quote from the Psalms, or I can turn to some of the inspirational teachings of Ernest Holmes and say that. I love what Khalil Gibran said. He says, much of your pain is the bitter portion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. So when I do my affirmations and allow those scriptures to nurture and nourish me, let that pain begin to break away, calling it to go into a place of, you're not going to hurt me anymore. It means that we have to begin to release and to let go of the thoughts and the things where we find ourselves stuck in. We have to change our thinking and allow the soul to change our direction. It also means that you can see a drastic change or a drastic change in direction come about in your life. When I personally decided to get out of the grave with the dead man, there was a nice boyfriend who was just waiting for me to wake up. Just waiting for me to wake up and to join him in enjoying life and for him to become a part of my core family. It was absolutely wonderful. Now, this story is an allegory, and it's filled with a lot of metaphors. We could literally sit down for hours and pick this story to pieces, and we could see the role of spirit and how spirit operates through our lives for us to grow. And we could pick away every little portion and thing that was done here. The role of the young man who came and brought the abundance that she needed. The significance of the abundance that was brought to her to change her life from one of thinking, I can't have a prosperous life. I'm doomed to be here in poverty. I'm doomed to be here as a prostitute. We could pick it to death. But what is it that we want to glean from this story of evolving from one way of being to having a new direction such that you become a new way of being? I'm going to say this. Please receive it in love and kindness. Every last one of us is a prostitute. How many of us have worked on a job where we knew we were not being paid what we were worth? This is about worthiness too. How many times have we surrendered what we knew to be true in our hearts to follow something that was not true by someone we cared about? Because we wanted to have that person in our life and in our presence. How many times have we surrendered what we know to be the integrity of our lives, the truth of our heart, to something that was so much less? In other words, we've prostituted ourselves, but here in the soul tells us, no, 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 no. Let's move you to a place of wholeness. Let's bring you into who you were called to be right here on this earth in unity and wholeness with the infinite spirit of life. You, Carolyn, you, Jerry, every last one of you were called to be perfect, whole, complete, just as you are, with whatever somebody may call a quirk that is within you. That's part of the goodness that you are. The work of the soul leads us to understand that purpose that we have in life. And it leads us to understand what it means to live a life of freedom. It means that we have the ability to do and to be exactly who we are without having to check in to say, if I do this thing, will my boyfriend be mad at me? If I do this thing, will my children think less of me? Freedom gives you the ability to be who you are and to stand in the integrity of your oneness, your relationship with the infinite spirit of life. You don't have to hide back from anyone. You don't have to shy away from anything. You know something? It is so freeing. It is so freeing to say within yourself, who I am. Ah! To just let it all hang out, to let it shine, to let the goodness of who you are be there. Now, I've shared with you this story out of India. Is there another story that I think is really relevant? And I think the story of the prodigal son also bears witness to one of the main things that we have as part of our goal here in life is to find our way back to the Father's house. We have a nature, a divine nature that is replete and full of everything that we need in this life. The seed of who we
I think we lost Carolyn. It looks like she got dropped out, and hopefully she will be back soon. As soon as she figures it out, I was hoping that she would pop back in, but I love the stories that she was telling, and I particularly love the prodigal son story, and because it shows that we have all that we need and more in our lives, and sometimes we go searching for something else only to find out that where we were and what we had was more than enough. So let me offer up a prayer. Well, I don't know whether Carolyn will return to us, but let me offer up a prayer right here, right now, as a concluding prayer, and then I'll make a few announcements. So there is this one divine presence, one divine love, which I call God, the creator of all that there is, and that there is this oneness that pervades us, that we connect with, that we remember that we have an abundance, that we count, we have freedom, we have love, we have all that we need when we remember who we truly are. So just knowing this, I know that this day today is celebrated as the first day of the rest of our lives, knowing it's all good, it's all God. And so we give great thanks for that, knowing it is done in the mind of God and in each one of us. And so I bless each one of us, and I am grateful for all that we have. And so it is. So I want to make a couple of announcements. The first announcements, in case you haven't read the constant contact that was mailed out on Friday, we are planning to reopen the church on August 15th. We want to take it slow and easy, that we open up and we can stay open, and we're getting everything ready. Part of getting everything ready is that Alex Richardson, our board president, goes down to the church from 2 to 4 many weekends, and you're invited to join her and putting almost the finishing touches. They have been doing a remarkable job of going through things in those back closets and pulling them out and getting that which no longer serves us out. And that is the refreshing rebirth that we're all going through. So you could help her. She'll be there on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday and Tuesday, June 26, 27, 28, and 29 from 2 to 4. So go down and help her. And we're going to have a parking lot sale the week before. We're planning it for August 6th. And if you'd like to help and volunteer, check with Alex. We would love to have you there. We're going to be there probably, I don't know the exact time, but I'm guessing like 9 until 3. We'd love you to have volunteer, but please don't bring your own stuff. We want to sell what we have to get rid of it. We don't want to deal with new things. And then the last thing I want to share with you is our contributions that allow us to keep our church moving and available to be reopened. So let me screen share our beautiful yellow building, our church. You can see it right there. This is the building that we're cleaning. Those trees are going to be trimmed, and the front is going to be cleaned, and we're having the parking lot sale, as I said, and we're getting ready to open up. It's going to be, if you'd like to help, please financially go to our first church, vallejo.org, and use PayPal, or go use your bank bill pay, or the old-fashioned way, which we love, First Church of Religious Science. Write your check and mail it to 229 Springs Road, Vallejo, California. And now I'm going to end Spring Share, and I'm going to also end the recording and end Facebook and invite everybody to open up. So let me stop Facebook live stream. Let me now stop the recording.